I want to really cut to the chase here, but if I had to ask you to open up this whole interview, straight up, first question asked, is it pay to win or is it not pay to win? I'm sure you get
Uh,
asked this a lot. What would you answer? Welcome, Kanima. How's it going? Thank you so much for joining me here today. For those of you who are watching live on Twitch, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, this is going to be a good one because there's a lot of people talking about pay to win, free to play. What are you supposed to do if you're a free to play player? You know, just anything related to progression and money and free to play stuff. We're going to go through all of that today because today we are joined by a very special guest that I've been saving for this moment right before launch when all eyes are on this game. And a lot of you guys out there, especially watching on YouTube, are wondering whether you should play this game or not, but you're worried about it being pay to win. So what I did is I brought in Mr. Free to Play himself. Okay. I'm joined here by Kanima. He is well known in the Lost Ark community as the free-to-play guy. If you're going to get the truth, you're going to get it from this guy. And I have no idea. I just obviously have a few questions that I pre-recorded, but I have no idea how he's going to answer this. This might come out. This might be like a 1-minute video, and Kanima might be like, "It's fucking pay to win. Don't even do it. It's destroyed my life." Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to say. But we're going to get to hear what it's like from the perspective of a true free-to-play player that has played this game for a very long period of time and has been very invested in this game. And not only are we going to hear his opinions on whether he thinks it's pay to win or not, but also how he just goes about playing the game himself as a free-to-play player. Sorry for the long intro, Kanima. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
all right. Okay. Thanks, Kanon. Thank you for having me. Thanks for inviting me to the stream here. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kanima, and I stream Lost Ark almost every day on twitch.tv/KanimaXIV. People know me as the free-to-play player in the latest Korean endgame, and I main Scouter. It's one of the class that is not gonna be in NAU, unfortunately. So yeah, and I currently have like about 4 characters at like 1500 item level. And for context, basically I can do the latest Legion raid on these characters. So yeah.
Okay, so
And
just sorry. So what you mean? So we're gonna have a lot of new players that have no idea what a Legion raid is. Could you tell us what that is, real quick? What's
a
the
Legion,
significance of that?
yeah. So a Legion raid is basically like it's like a raid tier. You can like technically like put it like a raid tier. If you play like Final Fantasy, then you can technically kind of like uh compare it to like a savage raid, something like that. Basically, its difficulty is relatively the same, although like they work in a different way. But I played both games, right, and relatively high level, and you can basically compare the two of them together. It's just a raid tier basically.
Gotcha. Awesome. So when we're talking about this game and your experience with it, okay, we're gonna obviously go a little bit more into detail, but I want to really cut to the chase here, and we're gonna actually kind of backtrack. But if I had to ask you to open up this whole interview, straight up, first question asked, is it pay to win or is it not pay to win? I'm sure you get
Uh,
asked this a lot. What would you answer?
well, I mean, like my opinion to it is not pay to win, and it's not because of like oh, I mean, like it's there is a reasoning behind it on like why I
Sure.
would think that it's not pay to win. Basically, I
hmm
guess we'll get through that like later, right?
We'll get to it
But,
later. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I don't think it is, mainly because of like you don't really get anything, to be honest, out of pay to win. I mean, like people say that like what do you win, right, and stuff like that. I mean, technically it's like that, but there
Mhm.
is like more behind it basically, and I'll explain to that later, I guess,
Sure.
basically,
Awesome.
as we
Okay.
get through it.
So a little bit more about yourself. You know, a lot of people don't know kind of how the progression works. You're streaming on Twitch. You're a free to play player. Can you kind of tell us how, like, what is it that you have set up in Lost Ark? Like, how long have you been playing? How many characters do you have? What's your kind of daily schedule like? Like, how are you going about playing the game right now?
So for me right now, basically, how do I say that? So basically, right now I have 24 characters. That's
Okay.
24 characters basically to run with, right? And I don't really do dailies on them simply because I don't need to. When you invest it on your character enough, they kind of like make enough without you even doing anything. That is like you have to do dailies, and besides dailies to me are kind of boring anyway, so I just skip them. So yeah, setting them up is also not that difficult once you know what you are doing as well. It
Okay.
also doesn't really cost that much compared to like what people think. Like it's a common
Mhm.
misconception to think that like oh, it costs like millions of gold or something like that, millions of in-game resource to actually set up
Mhm.
your character. Not really, to be honest. If you know what you're doing, you can technically like make it cheap. But that's basically what it is right there.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. We'll get to the first question that I have here, and that is, or not really a question, but something that I'm hoping that you could walk us through and walk the viewers through how progress works in Lost Ark. What is the experience for a new player coming into Lost Ark? Like, what do they expect to do when it comes to progress? Because I think this is a very key element and a very important thing that viewers have to understand before they can even begin the talk of pay to win. They need to understand what the actual gameplay is. Like, what are you swiping for if you're swiping? Why does he not think it's pay to win? How does the progress work in Lost Ark?
Okay, so progress in Lost Ark actually works like in a multiple way, right? The most straightforward one and the one that like people usually see all the time and ignore the rest is usually the item level progression, right? It's basically like the one thing that like you see and like basically it's what people ask, what's your item level and stuff like that, right? I mean, like that's the most straightforward one. So item level usually just comes from gear which you can acquire easily. There is not really anything you need to do to actually get the gear itself, right? Then you can upgrade them through like materials and from dailies and weeklies. That's basically like enhancing, right? So progression in item level is similar to BDO in the sense that like you have a chance to succeed, and the higher the enhancement, the chance is like lower. The
Mhm.
difference is you don't break or downgrade your gear, so there is like no sense of like backward progression. But and then there is also like a pity system behind it. In case like if you are unlucky and fail enough times, game will just guarantee your next upgrade basically. So at some point you'll get there.
Mhm.
It's not a matter of like oh, I will never get there. No, at some point you'll just get there without like without it just takes like more time maybe.
Right.
Other Yeah, there is like other progression like side progression, which is usually like something like engraving, gear set, tripods, jewels, cards, collectibles like skill points. This is like a side progression thing that people don't really know if you're new into the game, right? This is actually like sometimes makes you like it's worth more in making your character stronger than just item level.
Mhm.
So if you just have like a high item level and you don't have this, you're probably weaker than like someone that is like 50, 100 eye level under you. In
Right.
a way, it's like that basically. So yeah,
S-
this side progression is like there is a lot of ways to get it, and it's like basically scattered all around the game.
Right. Okay. So we hear a lot about item level, and rightfully so. It is a very important aspect of this game. The vast majority of players, however, see that item level number and they immediately would think that item level determines how strong you are. And while it is definitely one of the determining factors with how progressed you are, it's not just about item level, is it? There's a lot of other things in this game that you're actually trying to grind out. Item level kind of acts as like the entry barrier to some of these raids, which is the end game content.
Well, item level does make you stronger in a
Hmm.
way. It kind of does make you stronger, but what item level does is basically it puts you in the front door. Basically, that's all you do, right? So when you have like the item level, that means you can enter this raid. Entering this raid, even if you're like 1,000 item level above, if you messed up, you die anyway. So it's the same thing basically. So that's what item level does. It's a key. It's like a key basically. Whatever like you do in the game, you need item level to first enter into like the raid or like anything that requires like that specific item level. Generally, you can't really enter under the item level, but there are like some contents that allows it basically.
Mm. Gotcha. Okay. So, next question or topic of discussion is the free to play experience. You certainly have it. walk us through the free-to-play experience.
Okay, so for free to play experience, right, has been a pretty nice one, to be honest. For like someone that like has zero intention of like spending anything into the game, right? The game is actually like very casual friendly, and it's actually also free to play friendly. At least in Korea, that is right. Mainly because like we get like events here and there that like helps a lot in progression here and there. Let's pray that NAU gets that as well, not like certain other servers. So we'll ignore that. But yeah, in this sense that like even if you're free to play, as long as like let's say you're playing the game not like religiously, you don't play like 12 hours a day, not really. It's just like 1 or 2 hours a day is all enough. In this sense, you're not really behind on content. Whenever like a content come out, the new raid comes out, right, you'll be able to be there to do the content. So that's like basically what it is, right? PvP is obviously equalized. So I saw a question earlier, right, and on the chat. PvP is equalized. It doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you're level 30. Doesn't matter if you're level 60. When you enter like an arena, you have the same skill points. You have the same like stats. So there is really like nothing you can do to actually make your character stronger. There is just you and your skill basically. So yeah, so no issue in PvP there, right?
Right.
But I'm not a PvP player, so I'm just like a random diamond Hawkeye running around. So yeah.
Hey, that's very respectable, man, and you're absolutely right. And that is one of the things you viewers at home will never hear about the PvP being pay to win. It's never debated about because it is. It's about as balanced as it gets. It's common knowledge at this point. Okay, so the free to play experience, you can get to that end game rate, but you yourself, 24 alts, that's pretty big. What does it take? Like. Some of the people at home hearing that might kind of sit and think to themselves, well, I only have like 2-3 hours a day that I can play and I can't swipe. Am I still going to be able to experience all that content? Am I going to be really behind to keep up with the people that are swiping? It sounds like I could do it as a free-to-play player, but it sounds like I have to be a hardcore player to actually do it. Is that true? What's your take on that?
Not really, actually. If you say you have 2 or 3 hours, you can play 24 characters like me. I'm just gonna say that. Because the difference is that, like, since I have, like, this many characters, right, I don't really need to do daily. Because my characters make enough. I only log onto, like, one of these character once a week. And then it takes me, like, a 1.5 hour, maybe, to do, like, the raid, right? Finish the raid, and then I'm done, basically, with that character. I don't touch it until next week again. But they make a lot of like resource just from doing that. I don't really do daily because daily is a resident sleeper for me. So
Right.
that's
Okay.
like one way to do it. It's a way. It's like in a way, it's like if you have like 6 character and you grind daily every day, it's not that much of a difference compared to like 24 character that doesn't touch daily. Think of it that way.
Interesting.
Basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So playing daily on all 6 characters is similar to playing 24 characters once a week.
Yeah, and each character usually takes like 30 minutes. So
30
in a
minutes
way,
a day
it's like about 3 hours a day, basically, if you do it. It's just that like dailies are kind of like you do like the chaos dungeons, the guardian raid. I feel like it's a resident sleeper to me. It's like a kind of like I'm just bored with it. So I just wanna do the raids. So what I do is basically I skip daily. I make characters to run raids every time. So that's basically like an equivalent of that.
Interesting. Okay, so if I can kind of try to summarize that or kind of pack it into one little thing here, you have 24 characters. You log on to each character once a week. And the reason why you do that is because progression in this game is in the form of dailies and weeklies. And you've got dailies and you've got weeklies. And the dailies, guys, the dailies provide you with enhancement materials, things that you could use on your character to increase your gear level, to maybe even sell. And then the weeklies, the raid content, the main weeklies, because there are other weeklies too, but the main weeklies that Kanon was talking about are raids that you participate in. Some of these insane raids that look super fun to play, those pay out a hard gold currency, and the amount of money that you can make, that you're making, Kanima, on each character each week, because you could only do those raids on one character once a week. You can only do those raids once a week per character. Your progressing your whole account or your main, whatever it is you're progressing by just doing those raids weekly, like once a week. That's pretty much all you do, and then your main, you're probably doing your dailies. Is that a fair breakdown?
That is pretty much how it is. Yeah. So there are like some question like, if that's the case, then like if I only have like these hours, right? How many do I need to like get into the end game? How many ults do I need to get to the end game, right? Or stuff like that. So I mean, like when you're playing the game and you're reaching tier 3, right? End game, that is basically, especially in NAU, because you start with tier 3 for some reason. Then you will need like alts to help your character progression. In a way, it's kind of like that, right? Fortunately, in KR, right, in Korea, we get like boosts here and there. Basically, as you play the game, you get given out these alts for free. So at some point, like in a way, you don't even need to make alts. You get it for free in a way. So hopefully NAU like adopt this system as well, which I think they will. Basically, like you don't even need to make alts. At some point, you'll get it for free.
Right.
So,
and I think it's
yeah.
important to know that every region has. Every region
Yeah.
has
It happens in Japan as well. It happens in Russia, kinda. Russia is kind of like weird. They have like a weird greedy way on getting it, but yeah, that's basically what it is. In hindsight, basically, you don't really need to work that hard and then like spend 12 hours a day to be on content. Not really. You can spend like 1 or 2 hours a day. You'll be fine as well. So yeah. On the other side, though, if you do spend a lot of time, you will be rewarded well for your efforts as well. So it's not like, if you do 12 hours, then you're just wasting your time. Not really. So in a way that, like, since I play like probably like around 8 to 10 hours a day, since I'm streaming anyway, right? I currently have like 4 or 5 characters that are able to do the final legendary, the Abril Shoot one, basically. People probably have seen that, like that raid is the crazy one,
Yeah.
you know that one, yeah.
Yeah. Saint made a great video on it. So with that said, so you just mentioned you play 8 to 10 hours a day. For someone that was playing like 2 to 3, right? And it's a productive 2 to 3 hours a day. Let's just call it 3. Most people at least play 3 hours a day. If you could play 3 hours a day, how much longer? Because you're at that end game content and you're experiencing that right now as a free-to-play player, right? Like, how much longer do you think it would take a free-to-play player to get to the point that you're at right now if that person could only play like 3 days a week? Assuming that person knows what he's doing.
You mean like where I have like multiple character in the final tier?
Yeah, just because you're a free-to-play player and someone that's playing 8 to 10 hours a day is obviously going to be way ahead of someone that's playing 3 hours a day. How much longer is it going to take that person that could only play 3 hours a day to reach that? Are they still going to be able to reach that end game content before new content comes out?
It actually like it depends, to be honest, because like if let's say you're just racing your main, right, you probably have a higher item level than me, because the way I play the game is that I wanna do the raid multiple time, right? So I race like multiple character. But if you do race multiple character, you probably are like maybe like you have like 2 characters instead of 4 for that, right? Since I mean like, okay, when I say I play 8 to 10 hours a day, it's streaming, so I stall a lot. I was talking with people the whole time. It's not productive 8 hours.
I get that, bro. Like, to be honest, I've been live for 7.5 hours, and all I did was play 8 PvP matches and dailies on one character. 100%. You're right. Yeah, I can agree with you on that one.
Yeah. So if you're looking at like a productive hours, probably 4 to 5 hours. So it's not really that far ahead, like compared to you, basically. So yeah,
Great.
and also another thing is that like progression in this way kind of like the price goes exponentially higher. So the higher your item level is, like at some point it becomes like really expensive to upgrade and everything. So that's where usually you stop upgrading. You just like stop there because you can clear all of the content anyway with that item level, and then you wait for the next content to comes out, right? If you don't need to, you don't really need like the max eye level to do anything as well. So as long as you're at the eye level where you can clear it, there is really no reason for you to like upgrade even more, unless you wanna flex or you wanna make like you wanna make it easier. But even then, the cost is like very expensive after that.
Right.
That's
So
that's the money sink right there. Small Gate doesn't even like say like oh, this is surprise is money sink. No, it's not. This is literally money sink. It's just basically like if you wanna spend your money, we'll take it.
we'll take right, right. The one thing that I would say is to that point, when it comes to this video game, like the way you just described it, in my mind, it's like I use like Final Fantasy VII as a comparison. It's like you could beat the game at level 70 with, without all these big summons. You could beat it there. But then you could also beat it at level 99 and put way more time. And I just use the example of swiping. Imagine if you could swipe in Final Fantasy VII, you could swipe and get everything. Knights of the Round, level 99 across all characters, complete everything. You can. But you're still going to beat the same game. And the way you just described it was like, okay, once you get to that threshold where you can beat the game, anything more than that, that's when it starts costing you a lot of money, to the point where someone that would actually value their time and value the money, value what they get for their money, would probably think to themselves, oh, I don't want to spend any more money here because I'm beating the game or completing the content anyway. Like, what's the point? It's just going to cost me a fuck ton more if I just wait until the next video game or expansion or raid or the next content comes out. I can upgrade my gear then, and it's going to be way cheaper, right? Is that, like, that's my perspective of it. You've been playing this game a lot longer than me. Is that a fair perspective of it, you think?
It's a relatively fair one, yeah. Basically, like, it's basically like, you can technically like get more, I don't know, through efforts or through swiping, but what you get is just you kill the boss like faster, and that's it. That's what you get basically. I mean, yeah, you get it like a minute faster, while like other players are doing it like 1 minute later, but who cares, right? It's not like it affects like your progression or anything, because like in your case, you just like there to clear the
Right.
raid and you clear it anyway, so you're done.
Right. So it's not possible to swipe in this game to the point where you'll get to this end game content and like just one shot it, like it literally finish it in 2 minutes and just be done with it. You can never swipe to that point, right? Or can you?
It depends on the content.
The
Depends on the
end game
content
content, the
itself,
current,
yeah.
whatever the current end
Yeah.
game content is. So
The current like end game content in that case, like Shoot Heart, no, there is no way.
there's no way.
You cannot over item level that one. So yeah, that one is like the kind of like a content where like even whales don't clear it. Even whales like gave up on clearing it basically. It's like you just can't over item level on
Right.
the latest rate. So yeah.
Right. And that's kind of like, from my perspective, sometimes I kind of think to myself, I'm like, a lot of people are talking about this pay to win thing. And I'm just kind of thinking, man, imagine paying to win like crazy and actually not being able to finish the content, because that's a real possibility, right?
Yep, pretty much, yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, basically like even if you're like a free to play player, right, you get access to the same content at the same time anyway, even like against like a paying player. So yeah, you have nothing to worry about. If you're like if you intend to free to play this game, you can. I guarantee it basically. I mean, yeah, I mean like maybe if you take a hiatus 2 months, then yeah, you have to play catch up obviously, right? But I
Mm.
mean like if you're playing the game actively, even if it's just like 1 or 2 hour, 2 3 hours a day, you'll be there in the end game. You have access to the same content, no matter like what is coming out.
Right. Okay. So that'll bring us to the next one, and this is the big one. We literally opened with this question. Kanima, tell me about your pay to win opinion. A little bit more in detail. Break it down for us, man. What's your opinion?
Okay, I mean like this is like a
It's a
you get
loaded
this question.
question.
I'm sure like everyone gets this
Yes.
question like I don't know 100 times a day, man. I mean it's the same with me as well. I think like this discussion has been going for too long. It's to the point that like it's a stupid discussion now. So yeah, I mean like I've said this basically like a lot few times already, right? On like a clip and stuff like that. Basically, will spend their money to get like in-game currency, and then they buy materials, right? They buy those materials from other players because the one that sells materials is other players. So in essence, that like whatever it is that they spend, like their goal to went to you, whoever is grinding, basically, whoever is selling the materials, right? But even with this, people still complain here and there, even though it benefits both sides, even as a free or like a as a paying player. So I mean, like the truth though, here is the truth, right? The truth is that like whaling can really only buy you like the key. It's like the item level and everything, right? It allows you to be in the front door to do the raid, right? You sometimes don't even have the proper gear set because you have to clear the raid to actually get that, right? You're sometimes missing things from your character progression that I mentioned earlier. You can check this, by the way, whenever like you try this, whenever like someone that is like under gear joins a party, you can check it easily. You just like need to know what to look for, and then usually I deny those people applying if like they're just like question mark right there. And it generally it makes your character weaker than like other like properly geared ones, and it's not even hard to see. So even if you do that, even if you're able to be at the front door, there is zero guarantee you'll be able to do the raid or anything. Since even with max eye level, failing something means you're dead anyway. Sometimes you just kill everyone in the party as well, so everyone knows that this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So yeah, essentially, right? I mean, it all comes down to this.
It's
There
like
is
you're
really like,
faking it. It's
sorry,
almost like it's almost like you're faking it.
yeah, it's like you're cosplaying as like a player that
A
knows what he's
wannabe,
doing. Yeah,
right? But you're
there are like
exposed the instant you go in.
yeah. So I mean, like essentially, there is zero difference with like anyone that like goes around the website looking to buy like a max item level account. Then you bought it, and then you're like, oh, did you win the game? Then if that is the case, it's the same thing as like you see a lot of whales like they're papaying themselves into like new classes or like new content. You see this a lot, like recently with like artist release as well. So it literally means nothing, since like what can you do? It doesn't mean anything, right? It's like if you buy like a Radiant Valorant account or a Global Elite CS:GO account, right? Does that mean you can compete with like other Radiant or like Global Elite player? No, you'll probably just get wrecked. It's the same thing right here. It just
Right.
like lets you be in the front door, and then you just got wrecked, and then the party kicks you because they know that you're just like a random whale. So essentially, it's the same thing. And if you think that's pay to win, right? If you think that that kind of thing is pay to win, then I mean you should play a single player game probably. It's like I feel like any game is pay to win to you, man.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of like goes back to the example that I was giving before. It's like the one question that I ask anyone that comes into my chat asking me if this game is play to win. If we're playing Final Fantasy VII and you can swipe in the game to get the shit that you need, and if I told you and you obviously can beat the game without swiping, and I told you that I spent $10,000 on that game to beat it, when you beat it without spending a single dollar, how would you feel? And every single person tells me they think I'm a fucking idiot, right? I ask them, well, what's the difference then? Like, what's the difference between that and Lost Ark? Because, like, essentially, what is the purpose of getting geared? You're getting it so that you can attempt to complete the content, right? And then you can clearly complete the content without having to pay that money, with the option of paying the money, right? So is that a fair analogy?
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, like the game itself is like a free to play. It doesn't have like a sub feature here and there. It doesn't really like you need. I mean, like that's basically like it's still a company, right? They still need to make money somehow. So yeah, and people
Mhm.
can say that like they make it through cosmetics. I mean, yeah, that's like where the most money comes from. By the way, it's not from whaling on item level, because not. I don't
Right,
think there is enough whales in the game to actually like
right,
whale on item level. The most, like they said it this already on like the last law on, the most money they get comes from like cosmetics.
right. So I see a repeating question here in chat, um, and I get asked this all the time, and it's the rebuttal of, well, what about a whale that's actually really good at the game as well, that knows what he's doing, that's experienced? Like, isn't he gonna have a big advantage? To that you say what? What is your response when you hear that?
Well, my question is like a big advantage in terms of what exactly? As in like are you raiding with him, and is it because like you clear like maybe like I don't know 20 seconds 30 seconds faster with him in the party, or what? Like what advantage? You mean like your advantage? I feel like that's just an easier time right there. When I see like someone that are like 100 item level over me, and then like they're like you can check the gear, and then like this guy like knows that he's skilled, I'll take him anytime. Like
Mm.
no question asked. I just like take him. Why not, right? I feel like that's just an advantage for me in that case. So I'm not sure like what really is the problem over there. Probably like here is the thing, right? It's probably comes to do with like this DPS meter mentality from like other games, basically.
I think
So
that's
what?
where 100% comes from. Yeah.
So what they wanna do is like they wanna be like top DPS no matter what it is, right? I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's impossible. I mean, you can see me do it every day on my main, which is like
As a free to play player,
as a free to play player, yeah.
you're topping DPS as a free to play player at the end game raid.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're in my stream, the most MVP that I see was myself. So,
Mm.
not that was like, I mean, like, that's like a kind of like a shameless flex, but it's
I'm
it's
glad you
it's
brought it
true
up
though.
though. No,
It's
no,
true
no.
though.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you should. That's informative knowledge because people need to know and understand. Hey, not only can you complete the content, you can carry your team as a free to play player, right? And were there? Do you play with other players that are in your party that have swiped though? When you are carrying these raids?
well, most likely, yeah, because like at some point, right? Well, okay, not necessarily they could be free to play, but it's kind of unlikely when they're like about like 50 eye level above my main. At that point, it's kind of like swiping territory at that point. Not like swiping territory, but basically, if you're free to play, I don't think you would go into like that item level. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So when it comes to that question, okay, like, oh well, isn't the whales that also are experienced, don't they have like a clear advantage over the ones that don't? It seems to me that that's a little bit of a one-dimensional question because of like like in this game it's not just about your item level, is it? It's a lot more than that, and the players that see this game from the outside and don't know like how this game works, like for example, what would you say, Kanima, is the single, if you could only pick one, whether it's item levels or your jewels or whatever that may be, what would be the single most important element or aspect or part of your gear that affects your damage? What would you
it's
say?
actually it's actually engravings. Engravings are
Right.
like, okay, not everyone really know like engravings, because it's kind of like it's a side it's one of the side progression, and it's the first thing that makes you the strongest, basically. And this kind of thing is usually also the thing that you check whenever like you make a party and then someone applies to your party, right? This is the first thing that you check. If you're like not properly geared on this side, I would kick you no matter what item
Right.
level you are. I
And
feel
there,
like at that point it's like, yeah.
yeah, and there's a cap to that, right? There's a cap to that, to the point where it doesn't matter if you're spending $1 million in this game, you're never gonna go past that cap, and that cap is not very high. I mean, you could hit that cap as a free to play player very quick, right? Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say, yeah. Right now, you can basically get almost max engraving, right? Max. Engraving works like a passive, basically. So if people are like wondering, and hitting that is actually not hard at all, to be honest. You can hit that even when you're like, okay, what item level? 200 item level under like the max. Basically, even your
Wow.
alts, even your like
Mhm.
alts that are farming has that as well. Your alts can have that like engraving.
Right.
In For people that know, it's like 5x3, right? So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, like, okay, it all comes down to this, basically, right? Will they have like an advantage in terms of damage for against you, right? Yeah, they will, probably a few percent, right? These few percent though are something that technically you can overcome if you play like in a much better optimization compared to like these guys, basically. And it all comes down to that, basically. Can
Right.
you still compete? Yeah, you can.
Right. So we've got item level, we've got engravings, we've got tripods, just to name a few, guys. We've got tripods, and we've got jewels. And let's like there's four elements of your gear that really determine how strong your character is. And outside of the level item level, which clearly sounds to me, as we addressed in the beginning, as just the number that gets you in the door to access content. While it does give you a stat boost, but it doesn't give you the performance enhancement as these other three would, which are your engravings, tripods, and jewels. And we don't, again, guys, it might be called something different in the West, but that's what it is. I'm pretty sure engravings are confirmed though. And we're not going to go through exactly what those are, because this is not a guide video, right? We're just talking about the whole free to play, pay to win thing. But those three elements, which are significantly more important in terms of how strong your character is, those also, just like engravings, have caps, don't they, Kanima?
They do have caps as well, yeah. Which is like something you can get. Someone like mentioned as well. Actually, it's also like cards as well. Is another one, another
Cards.
side. I think you
Thank
get.
you. I knew I
Yeah,
was
cards
missing
is
one.
like the last one. It's card is actually is the one that is being used sometimes to actually find a party in a way, because cards are something you can't whale. That one is just like pure RNG
You
right
can't
there.
even
Yeah.
wheel it. If you
I mean,
tried.
you can whale on it. You're gonna waste like so much money, so without like
Right.
guarantee of getting anything that you need, right?
It's not
And like,
realistically
yeah,
whaleable. Gotcha.
yeah. What people ask right now in like Party Finder is usually basically like 18 Awakening Segubit. It's like one of the card set. It takes like a while to get it. It took me like more than a year to get it, but I didn't really try. But basically, they use it as like as an experience filter, because like it guarantees that like this guy has played for a long time already, so this guy surely knows what he's doing. So even if you whale last month, right, you will not have this card set, and then like if you don't have it, this party will not accept you. So it's like kind of like a filter, this is like what people use, to
Right.
actually do that. Like again, it all comes down to like item level doesn't really matter, even in like a random thing.
Right. The more I'm hearing you talk, the more it's just feeling like to me, it's just that item level really is just like a for show type of thing.
It's a stat stick.
It's yeah. Interesting. Okay, so before going on to the next question, I do want to bring up this because I also see this coming up in chat quite a bit. GVG and Rowan. And let's separate these two, because Rowan is something that is not coming out for a while. If you don't know what Rowan is the new, and this was announced very recently and implemented in the game very recently, and it still isn't completed. Rowan is the open world PvP, and they do plan on having a legitimate GVG siege that's going to be coming out. However, before any of that was implemented into the game, we did have GVG Islands, which we will have access to in the West, which was also PvP related. And Kanima, let's talk about the GVG first. Can you walk us through, first of all, what is it? What is it like? Is it important? Is it not important? Do people go hardcore into it? And also, how does that work with gear? Is that a pay to win element?
Okay, so GVG, right? GVG is basically like what it comes down to is this is like one of the mode that PvP is not equalized, right? So the first thing that like what you wanna know is that like this thing is not equalized, but there is no ranked stuff over here. So basically, like your rank doesn't really matter as much. I mean, it kinda does matter when it comes to like oh, you wanna win the territory, so you need to win a lot, right? So you need to get like a lot of wins, a lot of like points to actually like get the territory. But it's not like it really matters that much to begin with. It's also server based, so depending on like what server you go, it doesn't go cross server. So if like there is like a really good guild on like one server, and then you're on a different server, you don't really go against them as well in a way. So that's part of it, right? Okay, for in terms of like how it works, I mean, yes, gear does matter over there, right? But I mean, like in terms of like what you're trying to do, there are like other places where you can win territory as well. That like okay, so there are different grades of like territory, right? There is the B, there is the A, there is the S1, right? Usually whales will be competing on the S rank one, basically.
Okay.
the A and the B, or the A and the B area is basically something you can compete like competitively even without paying a single dime. The S rank you can still try, but I mean like there are like advantages that other people have. But GVG is such a small part of the game. It's basically if you're a PvP player that you to the point you care about GVG, right? Probably you're like 1% of the player base. It's like 1% of the PvP that you do as well. Because like most of the thing that you do in PvP is gonna be in the rank matches in the arena. Because like GVG only happens at a very specific time at a very specific day on the week.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's for GVG. And I guess if people wanna call it pay to win, I mean it doesn't really matter as much, I guess, because like it's not like it affects your rank to begin with. So yeah, and
Okay.
also like okay, and
Yeah.
another thing is like if you want to compete, right? Do you need gear? Yeah, you do need gear, but is it expensive to get it? It's not really. Is it achievable to get as a free to play? Yeah, I think it is. I really think that it is, because it's not hard to actually get that gear if you know like what you're doing already. So
Right.
yeah,
So a couple of points that I want to make with that. I'm going to respond to your most recent remark about actually gearing up. You're saying that it's not that difficult to gear up for PvP to actually make a legitimate push. Um, I do want to mention one thing because it does require gear, as you say, but PvE gear is vastly different from PvP gear. When we're talking about the overall spec, right? So, like, for example, one of the most expensive things that you're going to be running for PvE is like the grudge engraving, which makes you do 20% more damage to the boss, yet you take 20% damage extra. If you run with that engraving in PvP, you're gonna get wrecked because there are no bosses. You just take 20% more damage and you're gonna get wrecked. So a lot of the whales that are out there whaling out for the PvE are not really whaling out on their PvP then, right? Is that fair to say? I mean, of course
yeah.
there's a couple of crossovers there, so there is going to be some benefit. Maybe there's a piece or whatever that they're going to be using, but they have to essentially re-gear the whole thing for PvP, right?
Yeah, gearing in like PvE and like in an unequalized PvP is totally different. You don't really use the same like stuff here and there. Can you still use it? Yeah, you can, but you're kind of like you're not supposed to. Because like for example, the grudge example right there, it applies like 20% damage to bosses, doesn't affect it to players. So obviously it doesn't boost your damage, right? But it still makes you take 20% anyway. So that is something you have to get rid of when you're entering like an unequalized PvP, right? And since, like as I said, you're basically a part of like the 1% of the player base, getting like this gear is actually very cheap to be honest, because no one buys them.
Right,
People
because
don't
it's
really
different.
care about it. Yeah,
It's
because
different from
it's totally
PvE,
different. Yeah,
right?
like people don't really buy them. So whenever like you try to find a gear for it, it's actually not difficult at all. It's actually pretty cheap in a way, kind of like that. Plus, like if you're already like a PVE guy to begin with, right? Then you have the item level
Mm,
to compete in the first place. So all you need to do is basically change your engraving,
right.
change your tripods, and then you can basically like compete as well over there. I don't
Hmm.
really see any reason why. Okay, so I've tried it already. Basically, I've tried it myself, right? I
Okay.
don't think it's like I think it has its own place. Do I get one shot? Not really. Not with the proper gear. I don't really one shot anyone as well. So I feel like that's relatively even playing ground. It's not even like like equalized. It's not like arena, but
Right.
it even enough to the point that like you have like basically like a almost equal chance of winning.
Okay, that's interesting you say because most games that allow you to pay to win your gear that is affected in PvP, normally you do run into those guys where it's like, this guy is literally left mouse button clicking and deleting our entire raid by doing that. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is unwinnable. That you don't really feel that even as a free to play player. You're not really feeling that, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to like the side progression as well, because item level means nothing to be honest on this part as well. It's the same thing with like GVG. Item level is not exactly like what makes you strong.
Right.
It's your side gearing itself, right? And side progression gearing, it takes like some time. Basically, you don't really just get it day one. So yeah, and
Right.
that's basically what it is. If you're prepared on that side, you can basically compete. I'm pretty sure on that.
Right. Gotcha. So as far as the GVG goes, actually I lied earlier. I'm gonna put my opinion in one more time. I would actually disagree with the 1%. I would honestly say there's less than 1% because 1% is still kind of big. You know what I mean? 1% is still kind of a lot, right? It's kind of a lot. I would honestly say, well, I've joined multiple guilds here now in KR and played with multiple people, and to this day, I've never ever heard anyone talk about, hey, let's do this GVG island. Let's do this. It really is treated as like a mini game that really nobody cares about, which is kind of the bridge or the segue into the next point that I want to ask you. What do you actually get out of winning these islands, like that S tier island, your S grade island you're saying, and the other islands? What do you actually get out of them if you actually win?
So if you're part of like the GVG, like the top rank guild, let's say, right, and you have like the S rank guild here and there, like you get like a buff depending on like which area that you control territory wise. You get like a buff basically here and there. You also get like a payout in gold in a
What
way.
kind of buff? What kind of buff?
It depends on the territory.
Okay.
That's
How does that buff work? Is it just like in that region, or is it
Oh no
forever?
it works like as long as you control the territory on the content that you do, as long as it's not like an equalized content basically. So it doesn't work in arena.
Okay.
So,
Could you give me
that's part of the thing.
could you give me like a real example of that buff?
I think like one of the territory like gives you like a 4% damage buff. I forgot on how that how that is basically.
Okay.
4% is like not that big, by the way, if you really think about it. As in like, if this guy is 4% stronger than me, is it like, is it am I just gonna lose to damage? No,
Mhm.
not really. At least like not as far as I know. It shouldn't be, right?
Right.
And then like that's like an example of it. The other one is basically it gives you like a gold payout, and people say that like, what, so you get like gold for winning, right? But I mean, like, you have to take into account that like this gold is split into like the whole guild member.
The whole guild members, or just the people that participated?
I mean, it's basically top rank guild basically.
Mhm,
So it's basically kind of like a split like that. In a way, it's like if you care that much about gold, you're better off playing PvE. You will earn more gold.
It's not actually efficient to do it for the
So
gold.
it's actually very inefficient. I
Right.
mean, like, it's an extra that you can get if you like doing it anyway. You get rewarded for doing it. But if your target is for that like reward to begin with,
Mhm.
then there is no reason to do that, because like doing PvE probably will get you more resource anyway. Probably will be
Right.
more efficient in that way. So yeah.
Right.
So in terms of like, does GVG has good rewards? It's meh. It's just
Right.
meh.
And I feel like that's a good representation of why the Koreans in Russia, in every region, they just don't care to do it, because there's really no incentive there, or significant incentive there to actually do it. So you can definitely swipe for GVG if you want to win this little mini games that not too many people care about. To be fair, I think it could be different in the West. I think maybe a lot of people could care about, especially at launch, right? New game, brand new, no one really knows what to expect. It could be super fun. For those that do care about it, for those that do want to actually push it, at the end of the day, the same applies with your gear as PvE and PvP. Item level still is the smallest part out of the 5. You've got the cards, tripods, engravings, all of which have caps and are significantly more important in terms of your output. And to kind of summarize what you said earlier, what we were talking about earlier was that if John Doe over there has been wailing out like crazy, congratulations, now do it for a PvP set now. And right, like it's not the same set. Like, you need to rebuild your specs for PvP, and most of the time it's very easy, even for a free-to-play player, to spec and be very strong in PvP, because the specs and the pieces that you need to be strong in PvP aren't sought out. A lot of the time is not sought out for in PvE. It makes it super cheap and accessible to anyone. So it's and that's what gave you that experience of, hey, I'm doing this as a free-to-play player, but I'm not really feeling this fucking. I'm not really feeling this raid boss effect where someone on the other guild is like a fucking raid boss and we can't do anything about it. And if I were to throw in my experience as someone that literally just started on the newest server, my item level 1445, which is very low, right? I mean, that's very low for how long this game has been out. And I myself did some of these open world PvP things after speccing my engravings and whatnot for PvP. And I had a great time. I was still, I mean, I one-shot people sometimes, even at my grade gear score level, and my hard-hitting skills, you know, did like 50% of their damage in one skill and strong burst windows, and it was, you know, that's my personal experience as well, which kind of which is going to segue me into the next point, which is Rowan. Rowan is a little bit different. We don't know anything about the GVG sieges because it's not out yet, other than the fact that it's been announced. But we do know a little bit about Rowan because Rowan is now out. Have you experienced Rowan personally yourself? If you have, can you tell us about it? What are your thoughts on Rowan?
Yeah, I have experienced it itself. I've done it on stream. People have seen me do it as well at one point of the time as well. Not a big PvP player, so I don't do it like often, but I do participate on like some of the events that was over there as well. Which is weird to me because like Rowan get more slander than GVG. If anything, Rowan is more equalized than GVG to be honest. I don't understand where the thing like the slander comes from basically. I just think that people like they just like hating on the game basically. So in terms of like a Rowan, right? Rowan is basically the same as GVG except your item level and gear set doesn't matter. You get normalized basically. So in that sense, that makes it more fair in a way, right?
So now you're telling me in Rowan, the item level and the gear set doesn't actually matter, and the only thing that matters is what is left is what we went over earlier, which is your cards, your tripods, your jewels, and your engravings, all of which are capped.
Exactly, yeah. All of which are capped. And most of the time, once you reach this item level to enter Rowan, which is 1445, right? You should have that already. If you don't have that, then my question is, what have you been doing?
What have you been doing? So that to me makes it sound like the open world PvP, the relevant open world PvP, the RVR, which is what they're pushing, is more balanced than any open world PvP MMORPG ever. Yep. Really.
But for some reason, it gets more slender than like I guess because it's new, you know, it's new. People see like you one shot someone, and then like oh, it's a pay to win or something like that, right? Not exactly. It's because that like people comes in with their like, you know, with their PvE gear in a way, you know, the one that makes them take 20% more damage. That's what's killing them basically. Because like people don't usually spec for like PvP in a way, right? If you spec for PvP, no, you won't really get one shotted, not really. And besides, even then, like the majority of player is still doing like they're still doing their PvE gear. Even I was on my PvE gear as well. And like since like my the way like I have my PvE gear is set up as well, I can still one shot people with my PvE gear,
right?
Which is surprising to me as well. I basically it's like I think like there is a place for Rowan in the game for people to have fun. I think when people experience it, people will realize that like, you know, okay, never mind. This is actually like what I thought was wrong basically in the sense that it's a pay to win or anything. So yeah, it's not like balanced again. It's not equalized, but it's equalized enough to the point that like anyone can have fun with it, even without spending you know, even without like properly specking it into like a PvP gear. If you do though, then yeah, you can have the you kind of like have the advantage in a way. But I mean like that's what it is, right? It's pretty cheap to get there anyway if you want to. Saint has proven this. I have proven this as well with like different classes. Saint has done like with a level 8 jewel. I did it with level 8 jewel as well, mainly because I forgot to swap it out. But yeah, I did it with level 8 jewel and everything. There is really like no issue why you shouldn't be able to kill anyone.
Okay, so to that point, you just said level 8 jewels. The cap right now for jewels, I believe, is, correct me if I'm wrong, the cap for jewels right now is like 11 slots, level 10, right? Is that right? And then the tripods are like level 4 tripods. Is it level? Yeah, level 4 tripods. And then engravings, I believe max is 5 level 3s, 1 level 1. Is that right, or am I a little off on that?
It's a 5 level 3 and
Level
1
threes.
level 2.
One level
But that's
two.
a very small difference in terms of like gain. And if you're talking about like in the PvP, right, that gain is even smaller.
Even smaller.
Because,
Okay.
yeah, because like you're scaled in your PvP
Right.
setting.
So as a free to play player, do you have that?
Me? Yeah, of course I have it.
Yeah. You've got all of those maxed out right there as a free to play player.
Well, all of my tripods are level 4 rather than
Mhm.
level 5 mainly because I don't really need it because like I play a transformation class, right?
Oh, is
So
it
my
level 5 that are max for tripods? Or
the gear is level 4,
right,
but
yeah,
yeah,
right. You put the level 4 on to make it level. Right, right,
into
right.
the level 1, then it
Yeah.
becomes a level
Level
5, right?
5.
So
Yeah. So level
basically, like
4.
my yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
basically, my gear is like level 3, but that's because like my tripods on like some of my gear doesn't really matter
Right.
because like what does damage in my build is other skills, the
Right.
transformation skills basically.
Right.
So yeah.
Gotcha. And all that as a free to play player. You didn't swipe a single dollar, Kanima? Have you not even a single dollar? Come on, bro. Come on.
No, not even a single dollar.
Come
I don't,
on.
because like swiping feels a bit like, I feel like stupid if I want to do that.
But that's fair. But that's actually very fair because of the way this game is designed, right? Because this I can understand, like, if we're talking about a game like Black Desert where the content is literally it revolves around how much you swipe versus this game it's really just not like that, which is interesting. So last question as far as the pay to win opinion goes, we see a lot of new players that are coming into this game speculating and saying it's pay to win based off of just knowing the fact that, hey, I can buy gold or whatever that may be, right? How many people have you met, like, honest answer, please give me an honest answer. How many people have you met that have actually played this game at end game? How many people have you met or talked to that have either quit because it was too pay to win or complained that it is pay to win or have said that it is pay to win? How many have you ever met or talked to? Because you've been playing this game for quite a long time.
I think for people that like have actually played the game, right, they don't really quit because of like basically if you ask someone that actually like played the game, like they would find out that like it's not really like that. It doesn't really like affect them. So people don't really quit because like, oh, the game is like too pay to win or something like that. I haven't met a single person that does that. Maybe there is someone that says that, but I haven't met a single person that does that. So that says that. So yeah.
I have not either. I have met, however, I have met multiple people that have told me that they quit this game because the end game raids were too difficult for them.
That I have met someone.
That seems to be the common denominator where people are focusing on money, and here a lot of these content creators that play this game say, hey, forget about gear, learn the mechanics. That's way more important. And then the counter argument to that is like, oh, well, you can whale out and know the mechanics, and I don't like that very notion. Yet here we are, you and myself and everyone I've talked to so far, I've never met a person that has ever reached this game, end game, and quit because it was pay to win. Everyone has ended up quitting that I know because of how difficult the raids were. All right, that's good to know. So I think that's a pretty solid discussion as far as the pay to win goes.
There is there's one more discussion actually.
Please.
This we're going back to the PVE side on this side right here because like because like there is like a discussion of the Esther weapons right here because it just came out, right?
Okay.
And about like the burst window and all of that basically. Oh, it's pay to win or something like that, right?
Okay.
That just doesn't make sense to me as well in a way because like when you really think about it, right? When you reach that Esther weapon, right, and it's a big burst window. So this doesn't apply in the latest raid because obviously you cannot out eye level that one, right? But I mean like for like it looks like you can one shot bosses because of the burst window and everything, the extra damage, right? But here is the thing though. What's the difference between you and like maybe the other guy with like a plus 25 weapon? You one shot the boss anyway because it's old content. That's like what people have been like saying here because like people like I think like they saw like the clown, the clown.
Yeah.
The clown is like 8 months, 9 months old content. So yeah, obviously you one shot it. Even I do.
Right. As a
So
free to
when you
play
say
player, yeah.
yeah, so when you say that like oh, Esther weapon is pay to win because it can one shot the boss. Yeah, anyone can one shot the boss. It's an 8 months old content.
Right. And it can't
Yeah.
do that for let's say April final. Like
If
that
you
the
do
current one.
if you do it on Abro Shoot Hard, you'll probably die actually
Mm,
because you can't.
interesting.
You're not supposed to like to do like a. Well, basically, like you can burst it, but I mean, like it's in a way, like in the scaling of the content, right? Again, you just kill the boss maybe like 30 seconds faster.
And how long are these fights?
How long are these fight? For like Abro Shoot Hard
For
five
that one,
six,
yeah.
mainly phase six, probably around 20 minutes.
Okay, so you can whale out and cut your clear time by about 30 seconds for a half hour raid. Gotcha.
In a way, it's kind of like that. Yeah,
Kind
it's
of
like
like that. Okay.
it doesn't really matter as much.
Okay,
You
so
know.
for those of you who are viewing at home, Esther Weapons, it is something that was more of a recent addition. Again, because this game is an MMO, right? Like, it's not like tier 3 base gear is always going to forever be the end game. There's going to continually be progression. That's content progression that is increased as we go along, and that just happens to be something that was one of the later additions, and it is not coming out for a long time for NA. Probably won't be coming out for a long time in NA, but I'm really glad that you did bring that up. Is there anything else you want to touch on as far as the Esther weapons go?
I just nothing to be honest. It's just like a money sink. Smilegate even say that like this is basically the money sink to be honest. So yeah, it's literally
Right.
like they're designed there to basically for people to waste their money on, because like whatever they spend is not worth that extra damage increase. You know, I don't
Right.
think it is. Unless
Right.
you're thinking of like clearing like a 1 year old content and then
Mhm.
like flexing about it, then maybe.
Right, which is right, and it's inevitably going to get outdated, just like how Tier 2 gear did, right? Eventually.
Basically, yeah.
Right, okay. So, solid talk on that. Really solid. However, the Korean version, Russian version, and NA version, there are some pretty clear changes that they're making. Let's talk about some of these key changes. I'll be perfectly honest. Kanima, like, I've had a lot of people ask me, come into chat and ask me, like, well, don't you want to, like, for example, today someone asked me, don't you want to wait to do this video until after they announce the changes because there might be a different thing? And what I tell them is like, it's not really necessary to have this pay to win discussion because like, there's no way Amazon is gonna make this game more pay to win than Korea, right? Like if there is a change in pay, it's not possible, right? Because Smilegate's not gonna let them make it any more pay to win than Korea. However, it's gonna either be the same or it's gonna be less pay to win if you believe it's pay to win. I personally don't think it's pay to win to begin with, so I really don't think that the changes are relevant when it comes to the pay to win discussion. However, it is and can be relevant to the actual overall economy of the game. So, Kanima, can you tell us your opinion on some of the changes that you've seen from the NA version and the KR version and your thoughts on them?
Well, I mean, like I have like a long thoughts already that like I uploaded a video about, right? For like
Okay,
thing.
great.
Well, I mean, like key changes
I'll
from
link that.
NA
I'll link
from
that. I'll
the
link that. Okay.
yeah from the NAKR is basically like you release like with tier 3 day 1, right? With 15 classes as well by the way, instead of like 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
So I would highly prefer if they stagger the content a little bit, maybe 1 to 2 months. But I guess this is what it is. This is what we're getting basically. So nothing we can do. Might segment the player base a little bit for like people at tier 3 and people at tier 1, casuals that is.
Could we
So
get
yeah.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just because we are doing this live on chat as well. We've got a lot of people in chat that actually are requesting. I'm getting DMs about it too. So can we maybe get a link to that now? I'll link it for the YouTube video as well, but maybe if we can get a link to that and then my mods can share them. I'm not actually sure which video. I don't know if you have it on your on you right now, Kanima. I definitely do want to
Uh,
link it in the chat if we can for those watching live.
yeah, but I mean like okay, it all comes down to like Well, the video is more like taking a more skeptical approach, basically.
Hmm.
So maybe if you're happy about it, maybe don't watch that because maybe you might hate it.
Okay.
Because I'm taking like a more skeptical approach on the issue, basically. Because some people are happy about like, oh, it's tier 3 day 1, we get the rates faster, right? But at the
Hmm.
same, like, my point of view is that like I feel like it's gonna segment the player base, skip it. But yeah, it comes down to that, basically. Hopefully small gate plans this and like it doesn't backfire. So yeah, a lot of quality of life changes, mainly
Hmm.
in the from the NAEU, from the KR version. So yeah, like ironically, some of this quality of life probably will be like ahead than like Russia and Japan, actually. So in a way that like you might be ahead compared to them in terms of quality of life, minus the classes and the content releases, right? There is also less paying presence right there, since they remove some things that are only like buyable with money. For example, like blessings, in a way, kinda. You can actually like buy them with like gold right now. The gold for like the gold for like at the end of the raid, with the box, basically the blue crystal box, are now probably gold. I'm pretty sure on like on NAU that would be the case. So that kind of thing, basically. There are more like this, but no one can really say some things until game releases. So basically, source, just trust me, bro. That's basically what it is, to be honest, because you'll see it later when it releases.
Gotcha. So nothing out, nothing like, nothing major that you've seen so far as the changes go that really make you think, oh my gosh. So let me ask you this, because we don't know exactly what the build is going to be like. A lot of people talk about, the ability to buy gold, blue crystals, and gold, right? I'm assuming it's going to be in the game. I mean, it's a big part of the game, and again, my personal opinion, I've never met anyone that saw that as a negative thing. It was always it was a very positive thing, especially for the free to play players. No, like, just nobody complained about it. It was a good thing. Um, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard rumors. They're like, oh, well, what if we don't actually, what if they remove that? And obviously, a lot of, whether it's a true rumor or not, like, just the very notion of a lot of people suggesting that it should be removed. You're Mr. Free to Play. You are that guy that wants about as even as of a playing field as possible. Your thoughts on the ability to buy gold and trade gold and do that whole exchange thing.
I actually think that it's necessary for the game, to be honest,
Mm,
because the way it works is that like the game revolves around like auction house. Auction house is basically very important in terms of like how you get your stuff, right?
right.
And auction house won't really work that well, not without that system in place, basically. If you're talking about like, let's say, people buying gold and everything, right? Well, you have to buy gold from someone. You don't buy gold from the game, you buy gold from someone. So basically, whoever like is trying to get like blue crystal or stuff like
Hmm.
that, they are selling you the gold, right? So it benefits on both sides. And then like whoever is like just bought the gold is gonna spend it somewhere,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes, usually they buy things from the auction house as well. So it's just like it's an integral part of the game and part of the auction house, which is basically the whole game anyway. So it's I think it's important. It's too
Hmm.
important to basically to delete, basically.
Sure.
Like in a way, like you can maybe change it, make it like make some small changes with it, which they already did, as we can see, right? From like let's say the blessing and everything. So it seems change in a less paying presence way. So I guess like people should be happy about this, right? Because like that's what people want to begin with. But I mean, like it's straight up deleting it, I feel like wouldn't really work, unfortunately. It's
Right.
it's just uh it's just an integral part of the game and like how things actually work. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so one of the big things about the auction house that new players will have no idea about, and trying to figure out how the best way to word this. One of the most important elements about this game is, when it comes to the auction house, are peons. Peons are extremely important when actually purchasing things not everything, but post purchasing a lot of things on the auction house. There is a currency called peons. Gold is the trading currency that you guys are more familiar with. There is another currency that are called peons, and these peons are required for you to have the ability to make a purchase. So even if I have 1,000,000 gold and I'm trying to purchase something on the auction house, let's say a helmet, I might need, let's just say it's not 10, but let's just say 10 peons for this. If I don't have 10 peons, I cannot buy this piece. And peons are just not very easy to come around. You're a free-to-play player. Your thoughts on peons, and how do you go about getting these peons and using and spending your peons? Is it something we have to be, is it something that a free-to-play player has to be careful about? Is it something that you could just buy? Give me the breakdown.
Peons is basically like it's an extra currency that you can use in the auction house. So whenever you buy something in the auction house, right? Okay, most things are not doesn't really use peons, but some do, right? And what it does is basically it's an extra cost. It's like, let's say the accessories, right? Or let's say the helmet, right? It costs you 3,000 gold and 10 peons, right? Peons are technically something that you can buy with blue crystal, which is something that you trade with gold. This blue crystal exchange, right? So basically, let's say you have 1,000,000 gold, right? You just spend like, let's say 1,000 to buy 100 blue crystal. The trade rate changes because it's determined by the player, right? So basically, blue crystal in a way, it's just gold. It's
Okay.
gold but in a different form, right? Using this blue crystal, you can buy peons directly. Basically, depends on what it is, right? So peons are basically gold. They're just gold basically in a different form. So whenever like you buy something in the auction house, 3,000 gold and 10 peons, probably the cost is like, let's say 4,000 gold. So if you delete peon to begin with from the game, right? Probably this helmet's gonna cost you 4,000 gold either way. So it's basically gonna be the same thing. What this does is it gives you like the sync in the game, right? As a from tax, and then like it also like gives you the trading between like blue crystal between like and gold. This is where people buy gold usually, right? Because they want to sell their gold to buy blue crystal. That's the trading basically, and that comes from like the paying players. If you don't have this system, then you have to change the whole thing, because that's how the system works to begin with. I'm not sure if like that's clear enough to of an explanation.
Yeah, no, it was very clear for someone that knows about the game. I think newer players is going to be confused about it, not because of the way you worded it. I think you worded it great. They're just going to probably be confused because it's something that they don't know about, right? It's different. So I understand. Essentially, if I were to try my best to really summarize this, you have a currency called peons. You need these peons to make purchases on the auction house along with gold. If you run out of peons, you can buy them with a currency called blue crystals. There's another currency, okay? And the way you get that currency is to either the way you get the blue crystals is by buying gold. I'm sorry, by spending gold, buying the blue crystals with your gold, and that will allow you to buy these peons to buy this. So it's essentially another gold sink. And another gatekeeper, I suppose.
Yeah,
And
in a very TLDR way. Yeah, basically, right? Peons, blue crystal, they are gold in different form. They are in-game currency in a different form. That
Right.
was it basically. You just convert some of it into the blue crystal or into peons basically. These things also like some things that you get like quite often in game through events. By the way, I rarely ever buy peons. I just wait until the game give it to me.
Right. Gotcha. All right. I think that about covers that. So next question or next topic of discussion: common misconceptions. This is a very broad topic here. Look, new players coming into this thing, they don't know this game, and there's a lot of misconceptions, and we've actually touched base on a few of them. But and maybe there's nothing you actually want to talk about in regards to this topic, but if there are any, what are some common misconceptions that you've seen that you think would be helpful for new players to know, and or things that you want to kind of air out and get out there so that people know because they think it's this way and it's not, or whatever that may be?
Well, I mean, like there are like quite a bit of stuff basically, but I
Okay.
mean, like one of the easier one right there is like people in chat are saying it right now. It's tier list basically. Tier
Okay.
lists are a very common misconception.
Mm.
Like you know, uh, basically every tier list is always like it ends up they are saying that like this is my own personal opinion and tier list doesn't matter. All classes
Mm.
are
Mm.
good. So why make the tier list in the first place then? You're just debating people, right?
Mhm.
I mean, like no offense to you, Kanon, you made like some of it, but I don't really see any problem with it. What it does is
Mhm.
basically, to be honest, yeah, I really think that those videos are just farming viewers.
Right.
So
Right. Well, you're not wrong, but to be fair, I've never done a PvE tier list.
yeah,
My tier
I
lists
get
are
that, I get it.
strictly only PvP, and I'm very adamant about when people ask me about performing classes in PvE, is that that's just not how the game works. I personally do believe that PvP tier lists are relevant, which is why I do PvP tier lists. Not just I'll be honest, I do it for the views too, of course, but I think it's actually good information for people to know. But I don't do
The
PvE tier lists.
yeah, the
Yeah.
information attached behind it is good. For example, like let's say, oh, striker is like whatever tier it is, right? And then
Hmm.
like I say it's because like this. Those are good information, right?
Hmm.
But the tier list is what people see, and that's kind of like
Sure.
debate people basically.
Mm-mm-mm.
It's just like it's just a warning basically. I'm not a big fan of like tier list or something like that,
Sure.
but that's
Sure.
how it goes, right? I understand why people make it,
Hmm.
because like content is coming and people a lot of
Hmm.
people come to my chat saying like what is the best class basically. My
Hmm.
answer is always the same: the class you don't suck at. That's
Yeah.
basically how it goes.
And you're not wrong though, because like people look for answers, and the issue with that is most other games there actually is an answer to it, you know what I mean? But that's just not the way this game is designed. There's value in other ways. Like for example, I play a striker, a very bursty class. We're not very good at certain things, or certain mechanics. Like we don't have the best impairment damage, compared to, like, let's say a Zerker. So like, how do you value that? And at the end of the day, just like you said, just the reason why gear doesn't matter as much is because of the skill that's required to actually to do this. Like if you're very bad at positioning, and you're bad if you're the type of player that's always not in the right position and in the wrong spots, you probably shouldn't be playing an ignite build Sork that where you're stymied with your mobility, right? You should probably play something, maybe even like a reflux Sork where you can move around. So this whole notion of, well, this build is better than this build, or this spec is better than this spec, or this class is better than this class, it's like, well, you better be able to play it that way. If that is what it is, you better be able to play it that way in order to do that. And just for you guys, just so you guys know in chat, calling out Jadal, if you go back and read my video, watch my video, I never did a tier list with him. What I did was I got his opinion on who he thought was like the burstiest class, who he thought did the best impairment damage, and rated it that way. I didn't do a tier list because I wanted to separate that for those of you guys
Yeah, that
in
one is a
chat.
good one. Yeah, I that one is a good info. I think it, like again, as I said, right. Even with tier list, what matters is the info behind the classes. That's what matters right there.
Right, right.
So yeah,
It's very important. Like again, I'll use another example. Hey, what I get asked a lot, especially because I'm a striker main, is like, hey, striker the best fighter class. What's the best fighter class? It's like, well, if you want to provide your team with, like if your team has, if you're running with like a teammate in your party that already has like a crit resistance synergy buff, crit resistance debuff, then striker won't be the best class to play. But if you've got every other buff except for that, then probably striker in that situation. If your party is lacking impairment and destruction damage, scrapper is what you want. Like there is no answer for that. There really is no answer for that, because the DPS across all the characters are pretty good. And again, guys, it's just not the way that this game is designed as far as the tier list goes. So yeah, as far as tier lists? Anything else? Anything else as far
Okay,
as
I mean, we went
misconceptions?
like on a long tangent on that one.
Yeah, yeah, we
Basically.
did. Sorry about that. Sorry about
No,
that.
no, no, no. We went on that. So there are other ones. For example, like this is one that I got linked on a
Mhm.
post from Reddit basically. In that like I saw like a Reddit post saying that like alts takes like 2 hours to finish,
Okay.
something like that. So basically like when people say alts are necessary, it's gonna make you like uh make you play the game 12 hours a day. That one is just like I just like what the hell were you doing in those 2 hours,
Mm.
to be honest. Also usually takes like 30 minutes on average. Basically, it could be faster or slower depending on like how you are doing, and you also don't have to do them every day.
Mm.
That's like the truth is that's just how it is, right? There are like a rest bonus in place. That's the name of the system. If you don't do your daily, let's say for a day, right, it carries over to the next day, up to 5 days basically. So you can technically just chill here and there. That kind of like a system is in place. So when people think that like all takes like hours and hours to finish, that is actually wrong. That's why like I said, like you can play 6 character with 2 to 3 hours a day.
No
It's
problem.
not hard at all because you can just rotate the character, or even if you do everything, it's probably gonna take like about 3 hours.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and actually, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Um, any other points that you want to bring up or address?
I mean, like we went through this already. Item level is not everything in the
Mhm.
game. People think that like, oh, you have high item level, that means you're strong. No, not at all. Actually, another thing is that like you need max gear to clear content. Not at all. Again, another one right there. So like you can clear everything on item level. Higher item level does make it easier in a way that like you just kill the boss like a few seconds faster maybe. So yeah. And then like this is like another one. This is like what's actually important because like people know that like alts are like kind of like the way the game like works, right? You kind of like need alts whenever you're in the tier 3 territory. So people say that like, oh, I don't want to level alts. It's boring. I just want to play like a one character or something like that. So there are ways to do it basically. Like you don't really have to make alts manually, right? I said that earlier. Basically, the game give it to you through events from like a free boost here and there, which basically like gives you alts for free, right? There is also a system in place. The name is knowledge transfer. It's basically a boost that uses your in-game currency. So zero payment involved as well. So you don't have to like swipe for it. That kind of thing basically. So whenever like we say that like alts are necessary, it's actually not hard at all to get them. You actually get them very easily. You'll be surprised how easy it is to get to like the max efficient alt, which is 6 basically per account per server. So yeah, if you like, okay, let me give you like an example, right? If you ever played like since like if you played for 1 year already, you probably have 7 character now without without making any of them, without like
Mm.
playing any of them.
So
There are
you would
like
have,
if yeah,
if you've played this game for the past year, you would have 7 total characters, including your main. So 6 free characters that you would have up to item level tier 3
which is
plus.
kind of like a bit too
Mhm.
a bit not efficient in a way, because like 6 character is basically kind of like the what you want. So yeah.
Mhm. Gotcha. Awesome. Any other
So
points
yeah.
you want to bring up? Yeah.
I think like that's basically all of it so far.
Okay.
I can't think of anything else on the top of my mind. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll see later maybe. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, those are all good ones. I'm really glad you share those. You shared those. Now I don't know how much you're gonna give away here. All right, but listen, I've got to ask the juicy questions. All right. At the end of the day, you are Mr. Free to Play, which means, and I mean, you're doing fucking great in KR. Fucking wrecking these whales, clearing content that whales can't. Look, man, everybody needs to figure out what the fuck they're doing for launch. A lot of people will not know what the fuck they're doing for launch, outside of leveling to 50, obviously. What they do after that, a lot of people are going to be confused. Kanima, if you don't mind, what is your plan for launch? How are you
Okay.
going about it?
Yeah. So I intend to play on East, West, and EU. albeit casually though, right? So I
Okay.
intended to play like casually
Okay.
to begin with, but now that tier 3 is released, in a way you kind of like have, okay, in my brain you wanna reach tier 3 as fast as possible, basically, right? So we'll have to see on like what class I would pick, because I haven't
Mhm.
decided on that yet. It's
Mhm.
between probably sharpshooter, shadow hunter, or artillerist. That's like
Okay.
my class choice probably on east, west, and EU. So yeah, plan. Okay, the plan is actually pretty simple. You first get to 50, right, and then do your islands. Islands to give you materials. Basically, this is the
Mhm.
overworld islands, not the estate stronghold that people were thinking of. There is islands in overworld that gives you materials, right?
Mhm.
You use those materials to basically upgrade your character, your gear, and then you go to like do your dailies, right? And maybe use knowledge transfer feature, the one that I told you about, like you spend your in-game currency to get an alt, because I couldn't be bothered leveling a second time, so
Right.
I would use that instead to make like maybe like one alt
So
basically. If you're like,
I want to just highlight that. I apologize for cutting you off. I just want to highlight that one more time in case it slipped for some people. Spend your gold. You are going to spend your gold to create alts that are leveled.
in a way, kind of like that,
Okay.
yes, it is like it's an investment, if that makes sense. It's
Sure.
an investment, because like when you have like that alt, they will return it to you later on
Right.
into the
I
game.
just wanted to
So
make that a point that that is in the game, even boosts that you can purchase and get as a free-to-play player. So as a free-to-play player, Kanima, if you're gonna be, if you're planning on having 6 alts in the game, you don't have to go through that leveling process 5-6 times, right? Like you could do
correct.
it even without swiping with gold. You can boost those characters free to play,
Assuming it is there, of course.
assuming
Assuming
it's
it
there.
is there. The
Right.
cost of it is 600 gold, and by the time you reach level 50, you probably have that gold already, at least for one, right?
Right.
So you can work on that basically. And with the material from the island, you can probably reach like tier 2 within like a few days, as in like 3 to 4 days maybe, depending on like how you are going to it. Depending on like how it is, you can also maybe use the knowledge transfer or level another one as well if you have time, to make like more character. I'm not
Okay.
gonna do that because I'm just gonna do it casually, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to be more efficient, I guess you can do that as well. And then like after that, you just keep upgrading until tier 3. So yeah, there is another thing right here, right? Unfortunately, my main class isn't on release. A lot of people have this problem, right? Oh, I want to
Yeah.
main lance master. I want to main
Right.
like scouter, but there is not this class on release. There are ways to basically be efficient on this side. So for those that doesn't have like their main class on release, right? They can probably follow this plan in a way. So basically, you get your character that you make, or the alts that you have as well, all at 1340 item level. That is in tier 3, and that is able to do the latest content in on release, on NAEU release, right? So why 1340, right? The reason for this is because it's not that expensive to get to 1340 item level, and it also gives you a lot of like return in terms of like gold investment and also like a material, because you can farm the guardian, the chaos dungeon in tier 3.
Right.
So you have like all of your alts at this item level, and you save a slot for your main, let's say, or maybe a few slot if you want multiple classes of your main.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so what you do is basically you just farm for tier 3 materials and gold while waiting for your main to be released, right? Now, unfortunately, if Argos the Abyss Raid comes out during
Okay.
this time, right, during before like your main comes out, then you might just have to skip the Argos experience. I have done it 20 times, so I done it like 20 times a week, so it's kind of like whatever for me. But if you wanna participate in Argos, I guess you can maybe like push like one character to see in Argos whether to participate in the raid basically.
Right.
But if you want to be more efficient, you leave it at 1340 item level to begin with.
Okay. So
Because yeah,
let me just kind of pack that in and try to digest it for those and slow that explanation down just for those people that have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 as far as gear goes. Forget about that for a sec. We're at level 1. We go from level 1 and we hit level 50. After level 50, guys, it's tier 1 gear. After you get your tier 1 gear, you plus that shit up, and then you can continue the main story, get your tier 2 gear. Same fucking shit. You get to tier 3 gear. Once you get to tier 3 gear, you're going to push that item level up according to Kanima and his plan. He's going to get it up to the 1340 mark, because 1340 is that sweet spot where, hey, that's giving me access to this new content at 1340. That 1340 gear item level, 1340, that gear score level is giving me access to this content that is allowing me to generate currency. That's a good sweet spot to just kind of sit and chill and keep accumulating this shit. However, if the next content comes out, and that content being Argos, so once you get to tier 3, think of it like content level 1, and we'll call that Oreha, right? And then content number 2, let's say that's Argos. If Argos now comes out, now you have a decision to make. Do you push up to get to that? Do you spend some of that money that you saved up to be able to do Argos, or do you not? Kanima is saying that he's just going to chill at 1340 and not push the 1370, which is Argos. Thank you, chat. And he's just going to sit and chill. Okay, so my follow-up question to that is, we don't know how often these classes are coming in. They could be releasing classes. In my personal opinion, the fastest I see them releasing classes is once every 2 to 3 weeks, and that would blow my mind. I'm thinking on the faster end, maybe once a month, but who fucking knows? Maybe they do once every 3 months. We really don't know. If they take the slow route and these classes come in really slow, for example, you playing Scouter, that Scouter might not come out. Let's just say, worst case scenario, that shit doesn't come out for 6 fucking months. What is that? Where is that point where it's like, okay, well, Argos is going to also generate me gold. I got to spend gold and resource to get there. But, you know, I don't know how much longer I have to wait for my next class to come out. What is that tipping point for you? Like, when do you start saying, okay, you know what? Fuck it, man. It looks like they're releasing a class once every fucking 3 months. I don't know, man. This is going to take forever. I can't just sit at 1340 forever. You know, I could make more money at Argos if that's a weekly thing. Let's go ahead and just push this. Like, what is that point for you?
The point for that is basically like whenever they give up a catch-up system. It's pretty easy to know, basically. Whenever like you are about to like upgrade, right, above 1340, right, it's very expensive to actually get to 1370. A lot of in Korea there is a lot of like complaints about this last year, because that was like our last year content, right? We know about like the cost of like going from 1340 to 1370, and that's like ludicrous amount, basically. And they give like a catch-up system. So whenever you get this catch-up system, that's when you start upgrading to your alts to 1370. That's where they're gonna sit. So in a way, that's like how you know. But without that catch-up, I would probably just chill at 1340, because like the cost that you invest into 1370 is gonna be like way too high.
Exponentially higher. Gotcha.
Exponentially higher compared to the return. It might take you like, I don't know, maybe like 3 to 4 months to get the return, and by the time you get the return, you could have got more if you just sit at 1340.
If you just chilled. Gotcha.
Yeah, until you get the boosting, basically. And
right.
I mean, like, you just like accumulate resource through that, gold, materials, and all of those stuff, to wait until your class comes out. And by the time your class comes out, you just like push it like all the way high, and with all of those resources, basically.
Right. Gotcha. Trying to be efficient with your time and gains. Very interesting. Okay, so you're gonna, even if Scouter is coming out fucking 6 months later, you're gonna be chilling at 1340.
I think it depends. If like if Legion Raid comes out before Scouter, I might have to pick one from that, because like Legion Raid is something I don't wanna be. I wanna be over there in the day one Legion Raid in NAEU. Argos is like Abyss Raid, right? It's I mean, people that are is for their first time, it will be kind of difficult, but it's not that difficult of a content until you get to Legion Raid, because that's when the real, like, you know, that's where the real raid is right there, and I want to experience that with everyone.
Okay, gotcha. So for you, if we're just gonna really simplify this, 1340, which is, let's just say that level 1 tier 3 content, level 2, if level 2 comes out, you're still going to chill at you're going to still chill at that level 1. If level 3 comes out, now you're going to be like, oh shit, Scouter's still not out. I got to go. I got to push this because I want to do that content. So at that point, I'm going to be forced to push my character up. Decisions will be made that way. Is that pretty fair?
Yeah, which is kind of unfortunate. But I mean, like, this is how Smilegate wants to do it, apparently, right? So I guess, like, we are kind of in a way forced to do it. So nothing we can do about it. I just hope they release 2 classes in a month, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I have a feeling it's gonna be. I honestly have a feeling it's gonna be. This is just speculation, but I honestly think it's gonna be every 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks is gonna be the number, but we'll see. We'll see. And no, that's not a leak. I have no idea. Nobody has an idea. And anyone that does know, if they know, wouldn't even jump around this question, right? They wouldn't even jump around this question. So, all right. So I think that's a solid plan. That's gonna give a lot of the viewers out there that have no idea what they're doing a very good idea. Okay, because they're thinking, I don't know anything. I just know tier 3, 1340. I'm following the free to play hero. Bam, there it is. Until my main comes out. As far as what I'm doing, by the way, I'm a striker main, so we're gonna be going. We're just gonna keep pushing. All right, perfect. So that was honestly the next question, follow-up question that I wanted to actually ask you. What was that? As a scouter main, what are your intentions? On my end, that's all the questions that I wanted to ask you. Is there anything that you wanted to add to this segment? Anything at all?
I think that covers everything in terms of like plans, right? Maybe like if there are like variables that like I didn't go through, people in chat can maybe like tell me, and I'll answer that as well. So yeah, but I mean, like, so far I think that's it basically.
Okay, great. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna stall a little bit. We're gonna stall here for a few minutes just to give chat a chance to maybe ask some questions. Go ahead and tag Kanima or Kanon just so that it's a little bit more highlighted for us to see any questions that you may or may not have, and we'll see if Kanima wants to answer any of them. As we do that, guys, please follow Kanima on Twitch. Guys, he's streaming on Twitch. He also has a YouTube channel here. Is your link here? Is it /Kanima or is it just gonna be this link right here?
I think it's that link still.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna post this in here first. Guys, give this man a follow here. Give him a follow on Twitch as well. We'll give some shout outs. If you want to do it manually, his user ID is literally in the stream title right now.
Okay, so earlier, like Aero mentioned one thing about like estate here. Like your stronghold has like an upgrade, like a research that you can do to minimize the cost of upgrading your alt. So upgrading your alt will be cheaper in a way that like it will be more efficient to upgrade your alt. So if you think that like, oh, I spent like, let's say 2,000 gold to get to like tier 3, right? Your alt will probably cost you less. So just like just a heads up over there. There is like that system in place that only works if your main is already higher item level for alts, right? Another thing is that like someone asked about like knowledge transfer right there. Knowledge transfer is basically a boost, right? What it does is basically you clear the content once on your main, let's say, right? And then you make an alt, and then you go to your estate, and there will be like an NPC that you can talk to, and then you pay 600 gold. You wait 8 hours, and then now this alt is level 50. That's how knowledge transfer like works. It's basically a boost with in-game currency. Think of it that way. It skips through the leveling process because like nobody wants to do the level like 20 times, right? So, and that's basically what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll do maybe a few more questions here, and then and then call it a wrap. Got a lot of questions rolling through. Don't know if we're gonna get to all of them, guys, though. I want to give Kanima a chance to answer the questions that he's seeing.
Yeah, well, there's a question here: how important is like gathering points when they recharge? I mean, like what's important is that you do not let it like overcap, because overcapping means it's not recharging, right? So as long as you have time to do like some life skill, like some life energy, you can do them. Probably in day one or day two, my tips is grab like some of the iron ores, the mining, and the basic logs from like logging as well, because a lot of people are gonna try to upgrade their estate. That's like a tips that you can make use of like in day one, day two. So just a quick tip here and there for other people. So yeah. Okay, do Aster weapons affect uncapped GVG or Rowan? Not really, because like item level and gear set is like equalized, right, in Rowan. So yeah, and in GVG I don't think it works, but I'm not entirely sure on that because I haven't seen it yet. So yeah. Do you need to go through new prologue where you pick your subclass to use the knowledge transfer? Yes, you need to do that. Basically, you pick a class and then you use the knowledge transfer. So yeah, there is a question for you, Kanon, about like gearing for like Argos. My recommendation: Argos phase 1, you can clear it with level 3 grudge and level 1 class. Let's say at phase 3 Argos, you want 3 level 3 engraving at least. So yeah. Do you think we will release with Astalgia patch in the Western? Yeah, 100%. If they don't release with Astalgia patch on the Western, I feel like it's gonna blow up. So yeah, I don't think that. I think it will be for sure the Astalgia patch. To have 6 alts and do the dailies, however, which class would that be? Where is the best class you can do for the dailies for the passes for the alts? It depends on how you do it, to be honest. You can play as a support so that you minimize the cost of the time of like finding parties. But in the case of like trying to like do, because like not everyone wanna play support, right? You can play like a warlord, you can play a transformation demonic or a legacy scouter, which is not there and in release. Those are like some of like the cheap alts you can gear. It's pretty cheap to do, whether through battle items or gearing through gems or stuff like that. And probably it will cost you less. So probably that's the more efficient one. What would the plan if there is no knowledge transfer? If there is no knowledge transfer, then I just play one character. But I'm pretty sure it should be there. I'm pretty sure on that. So yeah, trust me, man.
Maybe we'll do one more question here.
There is a story. How important is story? Watch cutscene, read dialogues. If you wanna rush max level, then you can just rush to max level. If you don't wanna miss anything important, you can go back and create an alt and just chill over there, as like you go through the story. So if you wanna rush, so yeah.
In regards to that, isn't there also a feature in the game where you can go back and watch all the cutscenes and stuff too?
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. It's called like Room of Memories, and you can basically get like the cutscenes to rewatch here and there. So that one is pretty nice. It will give you like there will be some like the context, right? Some like a chat bubble that pops up as you move through like the story. So you won't get the complete experience, but you would get like 80-90% of the story already at that point. So yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
And then like
sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to.
Well, there is last one here. As a completely new player, it's important to have support class for casual content. It's not necessary. The classes are not like support are not necessary, but it's highly sought after. Because what it does is basically it makes your life easier. If you don't have it, you can still clear content just fine. I do it every time without support here and there. So it depends on like your comp. If you're confident, you can do it without support. And if but people usually want support as like that margin of error. So yeah, and that's basically what it is.
Perfect. I want to address one last thing here before we go. As far as engravings, I do want to bring that up real quick. We're not going to go too much into detail since we're out of time here, but engravings are something that are very, very important, and it's something that I would suggest all of you guys to really understand before you start spending that gear, before you start spending those valuable peons that we talked about. You should really make sure you know what build you're going for. hey Kanima, can you give any advice, quick advice for anyone out there when it comes to, hey, look, I just hit 50, I just hit level, I already hit 50, I'm at level 3 gear, I'm at that quote unquote end game, I'm ready to go, but I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to fuck up my gear. I don't want to do, you know, like, I don't want to waste money, don't waste these peons. I know it's, you know, very important. Any advice for those people?
Well, whenever you reach the end game, which is level 50, there will be islands in the overworld, as I said earlier, right? Those islands give you like engraving books. That is like one of the easiest way to actually get like your engraving setup. Mainly what you want is class engraving, because class engraving like changes how the class plays, and you probably know like what kind of build you are gonna go with, right, at the start. So that's basically one of the easiest way to get it from the islands. After that, and this engraving is kind of like all you need until you reach tier 3, and by the time you reach tier 3 you would probably already understand like how to make like a sensible engraving combination. And if that doesn't like if it has not clicked yet, the system itself is pretty straightforward. You will understand it pretty quick. So yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, listen, guys. If you are not following Kanima, I know this is the end of our Q&A session here. Worry not, because I know Kanima takes questions, and he is known even amongst the streamers as someone that is really good at getting back to his chat. Guys, this guy has all the answers when it comes to the PvE side of Lost Ark. Hit him up. Okay, he streams all the time. Follow him. Let's get those shout outs for his channel. Follow him. Ask him questions. I'm sure he won't mind. That's what he's there for, guys. I mean, you're literally sitting on a gold mine here. Follow him. Support this man. Kanima, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you probably got to get back to your 28 scouters, but listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kanon, man. Thank you for having me as well. Thanks for taking me on the on the podcast here. Appreciate it, man.
It's been an honor. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, brother. Let me know if you guys liked it. Any questions? Comment section below. Please like and subscribe for the algorithm. It really helps. Okay, and links to this man's chat, his channel, all of his socials, all in the description below. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.